Hello there, and let me do something you shouldn't do to a vampire and welcome you in to this deck profile. And as stated all over the YouTube intro and the title, we have vampires on the playmat. So vampires are a strange one, with a few vampire monsters really from the very start of the game. They've had support in a structure deck, and then a main set, and then most recently a side set, where they were totally overshadowed by another archetype that became meta, Sky Strikers. Vampires have had a tough time of life, or, well, maybe undead, but let's see if the deck sucks. So let's delve into the darkness that is the monsters, and again this is quite heavy on the monsters, so I'm playing 3 Scarlet Scourge. So Scarlet Scourge is one of the newer vampires. In fact, most of the vampires that I'm playing are one of the newer vampires, and they've got a very common effect where it's, if it destroys a monster, you can special summon that monster back. He also has an effect where if he's normal or special summon, you can pay 1,000 life points to special summon a vampire monster in your graveyard. So again, he's a good extender and stuff like that. You just need to give him a little support to get him up and running. From there we're playing 3 Vampire Retainers, so this is another new one. Well, I say new, it's now absolutely ancient, but newer compared with the other ones. So the smaller, newer vampire monsters have an effect where you can special summon them back from the graveyard by discarding a vampire card, which makes all of the dead vampire cards in hand quite useful. And then Vampire Retainer, if it's special summoned, you can pay 500 life points to add a vampire spell and trap. And the spell and traps are pretty crux, so this guy is, I would say, key to most of your plays. From there, playing 3 Vampire Familiar. So Vampire Familiar is almost identical to Vampire Retainer, apart from it searches a monster when it's special summoned back. So quite a lot of the time you'll be going Familiar into Retainer sort of thing, which, you know, adds consistency to the deck. From there I'm playing a couple of one-offs, playing 1 Vampire Grace. So Vampire Grace is one of the older ones from the main set, the core set support that we got, which kind of focused more on the sending from deck to graveyard, which again was completely discarded in favour of a life point based mechanic. So Vampire Grace has got a hangover from that, so once per turn you can send a spell, trap or monster from their deck to their graveyard. They get to pick those, so it's all round bad now. Her better effect is when a level 5 or higher zombie monster is special summoned while you control her in the graveyard, you can pay 2,000 life points to special summon her back. The main thing is that she's also level 6, so she synergizes quite well with Vampire Scarlet Scourge. So then we're running 1 Vampire Fraulein. So Fraulin's a really weird one. I really wish it was level 6. I get vampires did have a bit of a level 5, level 6 mechanic, but most of the deck just is go-to level 6 now. So if a monster declares an attack, you special summon it, and then you can kind of do an Injection Fairy Lily-esque effect where you can pay increments of 100 life points to increase the attack or defense of a monster by that amount. So she can become, you know, a 3/6 monster, and she's got the same effect where she destroys a monster by battle and you can special summon it back. So she's reasonably decent. She doesn't come up that often, if I'm being honest. From there we're playing kind of our standard zombie starter, so we're playing 3 Shiranui Solitaire, who is basically a Uni-Zombie for the 3... Sorry, a Lone Fire Blossom for the 3 Uni-Zombies. So Uni-Zombie is just the best zombie starter that there is, really, I think. So, you know, discard a card to increase level, or dump a zombie to increase a level. You've got to be a little bit wary with the Foolish, because it means that only zombies can attack that turn, but it's not too bad. From there we're playing a couple of other starters, should I say. So Gozuki's kind of like an Armageddon Knight for zombie monsters. And also if it's sent to the graveyard, you can banish another zombie type monster to special summon from the hand, so it can be an extender as well, so it's quite good. From there we're playing Gozuki's older brother, Mezuki, classic. I mean, again, I think you could probably bump this up to 3. Mezuki's obviously really good, but I find that it's not quite as useful in hand. From there playing 1 Farfa, Malebranche of the Burning Abyss. So spoiler alert, we're playing Beatrice in the extra deck, and this allows it to become a disruption. And then we're playing 3 hand traps, and I'm playing 3 Ash Blossom, which could really be anything, but Ash Blossom fits so well just because it's a zombie, it works with Gozuki, it works with other stuff as well. So yeah, I think it's definitely worth paying that extra cost for the added synergy. Okay, so into the spells, into the coffin of the spells. So 3 Vampire's Desire. So Vampire's Desire has got 2 effects. I mainly use one of them, which is the foolish to change your level. So you target a monster, send a vampire monster to the graveyard, and then that monster becomes, the monster on field becomes the level of the vampire monster that you sent to the graveyard. Its other effect is that you can send a monster you control to the graveyard to special summon a vampire from your graveyard, which, you know, the utility on it's really good. A Foolish or a Monster Reborn is great, but the cost of sending a monster is a little bit harsh in my opinion, which is why I don't tend to use it, I think. From there, I'm playing 2 Vampire's Domain. So Vampire's Domain, you can pay 500 life points to get an additional normal summon, which is not bad. And then if a vampire monster inflicts battle damage, you gain that life point back. You could probably cut this to 1 if you wanted to, but I kind of like having additional vampire cards to make sure that your retainer and your familiar go off. From there, running a couple of allures for generic draw power. And then what would it be without 3 Called by the Graves in a Sir Slob's deck profile? So again, you know, Uni-Zombie really needs to go through. Called by the Graves, your best defense. From there, playing 3 generics. We're playing 1 for 1 to get out that familiar, should I say, should everything go bad. 1 Monster Reborn for the recovery / extension, and the Foolish Burial just as kind of like your extra copy of Vampire's Desire. So we've got a small trap section. So playing 2 Vampire Domination, and again, not so bad in hand because you can discard it to gain effects. Basically, if you control a vampire card, you can negate monster, spell or trap, and if it's a monster that you negate, you gain life points equal to the monster that you negated. So it can be really good, and again, it just gives you a bit of extra disruption, and going second, it's not terrible in hand. It's also searchable via retainer, so it's not like a complete, oh, let's hope we draw into it. Okay, so finally, into the graveyard of the extra deck. So I'm playing 2 Vampire Sucker. So Vampire Sucker's got a tribute effect, which is absolutely garbage. So if you were to tribute someone, you can tribute one of your opponent's zombie type monsters as if it was your own, which I have never seen come up. It's got a Monster Reborn effect, so you can special summon one of your opponent's monsters to their side of the field and it becomes a zombie monster, which again, I think it just gives too much advantage to your opponent, but it can come up. And then its other final effect, which is the one that comes up most, is if a zombie type monster is special summoned from the graveyard, you get to draw a card. So again, it's just a good way of keeping resources. From there, I'm running a tiny little Nightmare package, and again, you could change Cerberus up for Unicorn if you desperately wanted. I think just because a lot of the cards are fairly budget, I've kept the extra deck to kind of the more budget-esque options. It just feels a bit silly to be throwing, you know, kind of like access code talker in. So there, we're running 1 Borrowload Dragon, which again, I think Link 4s don't really come up that often, but it's a good way of getting around, you know, target prevention monsters. From there into the XYZ, so running 2 Vampire Sheridan. So Vampire Sheridan is a really good card actually, it's a really interesting one, I think probably underrated. You can attach to target send. It's a bit sad that it's a target send, but the fact that it's a send, you know, is not a destruction is really great. And then if a monster your opponent controls is sent to the graveyard, you can detach 1 to special summon back, so the first effect can activate the second effect. It does mean that you're out of resources in terms of your XYZ materials, but it's well worth it in my opinion. So it's kind of like a removal and extension. So from there, we're kind of going first XYZ, so on Beatrice, number 24, Dragulas, the Vampiric dragon, who's not a zombie or a dragon, but a worm. And then Photon Strike Bounzer, who's none of those things. So Photon Strike Bounzer is an effect Veiler on legs, which can be really useful. Dragulas is a kind of flip XYZ monster, which is super cool. So if he's flipped, you can send one card in the field to the graveyard, which doesn't target. In order for him to be set face down, he has to be banished or destroyed, but that's still pretty decent. So he's got recursion on himself, and he's also a Book of Moon for a monster special summon from the extra deck. Beatrice is obviously a dump, which is useful for like the zombie effects, but also because we're running Farfa, that is a disruption in itself. From there, I'm running 4 synchro monsters. I'm running 1 Shiranui Shogunsaga, who banishes a zombie type monster from the graveyard and gains attack. So if you just need a beat stick, then this guy's your man. I'm running 1 Psy-framelord Omega. So Psy-framelord Omega and Mezuki is a great little loop, and it also, you know, tears cards out of your hand for a kind of disruption. 1 Beelze of Diabolic Dragons if you just need that wall / beat stick. And then 1 Void Ogre Dragon, which I think in reality probably should be a Barolo Savage Dragon, but that would like add an additional half of the cost onto this deck, and again I think I'm trying to keep it fairly low budget. And then finally 1 Dante, Pilgrim of the Burning Abyss, to go with your Beatrice. So for the conclusion, Vampires are fairly good actually at establishing a decent opening board, so your opponent doesn't stand a ghost of a chance. Oh wait, wrong Halloween monster, but the point still stands. The opening boards that Vampires can put up are, you know, 2 or 3 disruptions, which again for a budget S deck is not bad at all. In terms of relevance, they're definitely, you know, okay. You know, they still will play a game, but I'd say they're not really going to be going anywhere more than like a local level. So I'm going to give, you know, kind of like that mixed bag of an average deck, and that's a 3. In terms of fun, I'd say again they're fairly fun. I mean, again I'm kind of middle grounding it here, but the discard to special summon always adds, you know, variety into the hand that you're playing, and kind of crafting your way to your boards is good. And they've got some ways of breaking boards as well, so that's always good. So I'm going to give a 4 out of 5 in terms of their fun factor. Although I would say that Uni-Zombie, while making them more consistent, does mean that you are tending to go through that linear play, especially on the starter. And again, as I've mentioned, I'm kind of keeping this on the budget terms, especially because most of the cards are absolutely dirt cheap, especially the vampire cards. So I put this at an estimated price of about $140, and most of that is, well, with Ash Blossoms and some combination of the extra deck. So you could really bump, you know, you could bump it up by throwing more money at the extra deck if you wanted to. So, Vampires are a decent budget deck in my opinion. What do you guys think? Do you think Vampires suck? Let me know and subscribe for more deck profiles.